"You're such a fool," my brother chuckled after stealing my identity too. "You're such a fool," my brother chuckled after hijacking my identity to purchase a $45,000 pickup truck. Now he's facing 2 years in federal prison. Greetings, Reddit. My brother swiped my funds to buy a truck using my identity, so I took him to court. He thought family ties would shield him. The federal penitentiary thought otherwise. It turns out I wasn't the only one he'd scammed. Before diving in, let me paint the picture. I'm 29, male, and have been an electrician in Kansas City for 8 years. I started as an apprentice, earning $12.80 an hour, getting zapped daily, and enduring hazing from journeymen who saw it as a badge of honor. Now I lead my own crew, pull in 6 figures when work is steady, and own my Brookside home outright. Not bad for a guy with just a high school diploma and grit that could stretch across Interstate 70. Everything I've got was built from the ground up. No family connections, no silver spoons. The early days were brutal. I remember one job crawling through a century-old warehouse basement, battling rats and asbestos to run new wiring for a penny pincher who thought safety codes were optional. I spent 14 hours in that nightmare, came home looking like I'd been dragged through dirt, and made $180 for the day. Every cent went into my never work for someone else again fund. My big break came with a contract to rewire the old Kemper Arena, which was being converted into youth sports facilities. 6 months of steady work, a solid crew, and enough profit to buy my own truck and proper gear. That's when I knew I could make it work. My 26-year-old brother, Dylan, is a professional letdown. He dropped out of community college after 1 semester and hopped between dead-end retail jobs and get-rich-quick schemes that always ended the same. Him calling me at midnight for bail money. I covered his first semester's tuition, $2,800, because he swore he'd study. When I found out he was spending his days gaming at the student union, I drove to the college and confronted him. "Want to drop out? Fine, but you're paying me back." "That's not how college works," he said. "Sometimes you pivot. Sometimes you just finish what you started." He never repaid me. While I was crawling through 120-degree attics, shredding my hands on metal conduit, Dylan was making TikTok videos about the entrepreneurial mindset, preaching to anyone who'd listen that manual labor was for losers with no ambition. My cousin Caleb and I would watch his videos for a laugh after brutal workdays. Nothing like seeing your brother lecture on passive income while crashing in our parents' basement and raiding their fridge. Our parents are total enablers. Mom treated Dylan like he was Elon Musk stuck in a retail clerk's body. Dad insisted he just needed the right break. When Dylan got fired from GameStop for chronic tardiness, Mom drove him to work for 2 weeks until he landed another gig, a pyramid scheme selling energy drinks. Dad sat through a 40-minute pitch on residual income. "He's got passion," Dad would say. "That's worth something." "So does a Labrador," I'd reply. "Doesn't mean you handed a credit card." I was the responsible one who could handle his own problems. Dylan was the creative one who just needed time to figure things out. The double standard drove me nuts. When I started my electrical business, I asked Dad for a $3,000 loan for equipment and licensing fees. His response, "Son, you need to stand on your own. Building character means solving your own problems." But when Dylan needed cash for his ventures, family support was suddenly critical to his success. For years, I played along. Family's family, right? I thought he'd grow up, learn what real work was, and maybe even thank me for bailing him out. Wrong. 3 months before the truck fiasco, I made the mistake of thinking Dylan just needed real-world experience. I was working on a residential job in Leawood, rewiring a lawyer's 1960s home. Mr. Whitaker, the client, was old school, valued quality work, and paid on time. Easy job, good money, 4 days to finish. That's when I had the brilliant idea to bring Dylan on as a helper. Maybe he'd see what real work looked like and pick up a trade. "You want me to do what?" Dylan asked when I called. "Work. I don't know anything about electrical stuff." "It's called learning," I said. "You carry tools, hand me things, and try not to fry yourself. $15 an hour to start." That seemed generous for someone whose only credential was being my brother. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow, 7 a.m. sharp. Wear work boots and clothes you don't mind ruining. 7 a.m. Man, that's early. Day 1, Dylan rolled in at 8:30 a.m. Sorry, my alarm didn't go off and I needed coffee. Save it. Here's your safety gear. I handed him a hard hat, safety glasses, and gloves. He stared at them like I'd given him medieval torture devices. Do I really need this? It's just a house. You want to explain to Mom why you're in the ER because you were too cool for safety gear. For the first hour, things went fine. I had him sort tools and carry supplies upstairs. Simple tasks even Dylan couldn't mess up. Then I asked him to grab my wire strippers from the blue toolbox in the truck. 10 minutes later, he came back empty-handed. They were right on top. Yeah, there's like a million tools in there. I don't know what wire strippers look like. I fetched them myself. They were exactly where I said, sitting on top. The breaking point came on day 3. I was working in Whitaker's daughter's bedroom. She was home from college, a pre-med student who worked at Country Club Plaza to help pay tuition. I left Dylan to organize tools in the hallway while I installed outlets. 20 minutes later, he was gone. I found him on the back patio trying to get the daughter's number. So, you're studying medicine? That's cool. I'm an entrepreneur myself. Ever heard of social media marketing? The poor girl looked cornered, giving polite responses while clearly wanting to escape. Her face lit up when she saw me. Oh, good, Brody's back. I was just telling your brother about my organic chemistry class. I grabbed Dylan's arm and pulled him aside. What the hell are you doing? Just being friendly. You said customer service matters. Customer service means being professional, not hitting on the client's daughter while you're supposed to be working. I was networking. That evening, Mr. Whitaker pulled me aside. Brody, I don't want to tell you how to run your business, but your helper seems distracted. He spent 20 minutes telling my daughter college is a waste of time. She was a Dean's List student aiming for medical school. I wanted to sink into the ground. The final straw came the next morning. I gave Dylan a simple task: move the extension ladder from the front yard to the back. He dragged the fully extended ladder around the house, snagging a gutter, yanking down the power line, and knocking the meter half off the wall. I heard the crash from inside and ran out to find Dylan, standing next to a 40-foot ladder tangled in power lines, the meter hanging at a dangerous angle. It just got stuck, he said, like it was an act of nature. The power company had to de-energize the lines before we could fix anything. Whitaker was without power for 6 hours. The repair cost me $1,200 out of pocket, plus an awkward talk about liability insurance. I don't get why you're so mad, Dylan said as I drove him home. Accidents happen. Accidents happen when you're careful and something goes wrong. This happened because you were careless and stupid. That was it. No more chances. No more family favors. No more trying to help someone who wouldn't help himself. 3 months later, he called with new nonsense. I was on an emergency job. Some guy tried wiring his own breaker box and nearly burned down half of Midtown. My phone blew up while I was knee-deep in fixing his mess. Emergency. Need $10,800 today or I'm getting evicted. I left the site to handle Dylan's latest crisis, spending 2 hours on the phone with his landlord, Steve, who explained Dylan was 2 months behind on rent and too busy with projects to return calls. Look, your brother seems nice, but nice doesn't pay rent, Steve said. What's he been telling you about money? Said he's waiting on a big marketing contract worth $15,000. I was mortified. He'd bought a $600 gaming chair the week before. When I confronted him, he claimed it was a business investment for his Twitch career, which apparently required ergonomic seating. I told him I couldn't help. The tantrum was epic, yelling about how I'd forgotten my roots and how success made me look down on family. Then came the guilt trip tag team. Mom called, sobbing that Dylan would be homeless. Dad called, disappointed, asking, "What if you were the one who needed help, son?" "Dad, if it was me, I'd get a job, any job." But I felt the pressure. It always worked. I caved and sent the money. 3 weeks later, Dylan posted Instagram stories from a music festival, preaching about investing in experiences over things. That's when it hit me. I wasn't helping family. My parents were cheering, while I bankrolled a grown man's refusal to grow up. The big electrical contract I landed with the city was supposed to be my chance to breathe easy. 2 years of steady work, an 8-man crew, and enough savings to think about marriage and starting my own family. That made me an even juicier target for family vultures. I started saying no to small requests, which ruffled feathers. Dylan had been oddly quiet the week before the truck incident. No desperate calls, no emergencies, no dropping by around dinner time. Then Caleb texted, "Heads up. Saw Dylan at the Ford dealership yesterday, pointing at trucks and talking on the phone. Looked sketchy as hell." Caleb's the only family member with his head on straight. He works construction, pays his own way, and calls things as they are. When family dinners turned into Dylan pity parties, Caleb and I would escape to the porch to talk sports and work, while the adults inside debated why Dylan couldn't hold a job. "Think he's finally getting a job that needs a truck," I texted back. "Yeah, and I'm thinking about becoming a ballerina. Dude was wearing a button-down shirt with store creases." We were both wrong. I should have listened, but I was swamped with a downtown project. After a 12-hour shift, covered in dust and feeling like I'd been hit by a train, I was fixing some contractor's shoddy wiring in an office building. The owner was a jerk, whining about why we couldn't just make it work instead of meeting code. Fire safety was apparently optional to him. All I wanted was a drink and sleep. Then Dylan sent me a photo. A candy apple red Ford F-150 parked in our parents' driveway, chrome running boards, tinted windows, the works. Not a work truck, but a $45,000 status symbol screaming, "I'm compensating." Dylan stood beside it, grinning like he'd won the jackpot. Caption, "Thanks for the truck, bro. You're such a fool." My blood pressure spiked so hard I thought I was having a stroke. We hadn't spoken in weeks, not since I refused to send more money. I checked my banking app. $8,200 charge from Ford Motors Credit. The down payment had gone through on a credit card I rarely used, an emergency-only one I'd forgotten about. Dylan had the number and convinced Ford Credit he was me. I sat in my truck, engine running, every curse word racing through my head. The kid who couldn't keep a GameStop job had scammed me into buying him a luxury truck. But he didn't know I was done. I didn't call or text him, giving him no chance to spin a story about misunderstandings. First call, Ford Credit. "I need to report fraudulent use of my credit for a vehicle purchase." "Oh my," the rep said. "I see the transaction. You're saying this wasn't authorized?" "Unless I've got multiple personalities, no, I didn't buy a truck." "We'll flag it immediately. The vehicle will be repossessed within 24 hours. "Perfect. Don't call the buyer, just take it." Michelle at Ford Credit was a godsend, explaining they'd seen a spike in identity theft cases. She walked me through the process, file a police report, send the case number, and they'd handle the rest. Second call, Caleb, "You free tomorrow morning?" "Why?" "Wanna watch Dylan's truck get repoed." "Jesus, what did he do?" "Stole $8,000 from me to buy it." A pause. "I'll bring coffee." Caleb later said he thought Dylan had finally crossed a line our parents couldn't ignore. He was wrong, but at least one family member had a moral compass. Third call, Kansas City PD's fraud hotline. I reported identity theft, credit fraud, and forgery. Officer Hayes, who took my report, had seen this before. 9 times out of 10, it's family, he said. They think blood gives them a free pass to your credit. We'll investigate. If the evidence holds, and it sounds like it will, we'll file charges. Fair warning, family cases get messy. He wasn't kidding. By 6 p.m., my phone went wild. "Dylan, dude, what's going on? Ford says they're taking the truck." "This is a mistake. Can you fix it?" I replied. "Talk to my lawyer." That was a bluff. I didn't have one yet. But Caleb's brother-in-law, a prosecutor, recommended Rachel Smith, a financial crimes attorney who devoured fraud cases. I called her, laid out the story, the truck, the photo, Dylan's history of treating me like an ATM. When I mentioned the unauthorized credit card use, she made a satisfied hum. "How old's your brother?" 26. "Good. Adults face adult consequences. Can you be here at 9 a.m. tomorrow?" "Absolutely." That night, Dad called. "Brody, this truck thing's getting out of hand." "You're right. Your son committed felonies. That's out of hand." "It's not that serious." "He made a mistake." "Dad, he stole my identity to buy a truck. That's not borrowing, stealing." Family doesn't sue family. Family doesn't commit felonies against family either. I hung up. He called back. I turned off my phone. Next morning, Caleb showed up at 7 a.m. with coffee and donuts, ready for the show. We parked across from our parents' house. At 8:47 a.m., a tow truck rolled in with two pros who'd clearly done this before. They hooked up the truck and drove off like it was nothing. Dylan ran out in pajama pants, waving his arms like he was directing a plane. We could hear him yelling, "There's a mistake! That's my truck!" The repo guy didn't blink. Dylan stood in the driveway, staring at the oil stain where his truck had been. "That," Caleb said, sipping coffee, "is the most beautiful thing I've seen all week." At Rachel's office, she didn't mince words. "Your brother's in deep trouble. Identity theft, credit fraud, forgery if he signed your name. Potential felony charges. Options: civil suit for $8,200 plus damages for time and distress, or go nuclear with criminal charges. Both. Ambitious. Let's do nuclear." Filing took 2 hours. By noon, Dylan had papers and a court date. My phone exploded again. "Mom, a lawsuit! Have you lost your mind? He's devastated." "Good. Maybe he'll think twice before committing felonies." "You're destroying this family." "No, Mom, Dylan did that when he stole from me. I'm just making it official." She hung up. For a week, things were quiet. No new charges, no panic calls. I wondered if the legal hammer had knocked sense into him. Then he showed up at my job site. I was on a ladder, running wire through a ceiling, when a crew member said, "Brody, someone's here for you." Dylan was by my truck, holding his phone like it held the key to world peace. He looked calm, even humble. "I want to apologize," he said. "I know I screwed up. I've been thinking about how to make this right." It threw me off. This wasn't the Dylan I knew, always playing the victim. "I can't afford a lawyer," he said. "Can we work something out? I'll get a job, make payments, whatever you need."